Well, good morning, everybody. I'm sitting here getting this all ready, looking at some nice little bits of snow outside. Hopefully it might even stick a bit further. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to find the dihedral angle, all right, between these two planes, ABC and DEF. So we set them up the other day. We found the line of intersection. You can see that line in blue there in plan and blue there in elevation. So this is something we've done before. We've gone through our dihedral angles. This might be a fairly straightforward one for you, or if it's not straightforward, this is the perfect time to take a bit of time and get this figured out properly. Now, we have two different ways of doing this, and I'm going to do it with an auxiliary elevation, okay? No major advantage one way or the other, but I like to be consistent. It's just that's where we know we can go. Now, let's just remind ourselves what an auxiliary elevation is. And we'll do this with a friend, with our good little Lego friend. Let's see who he is. He's a little pilot guy of some kind. Okay, so let's say he is standing here with a slightly dashing pose to the side. There we are, looking at us, but his body is off at an angle. Now, if we want to see him straight on, well, what we're going to do is we're going to look at him this way, straight at his chest. Okay, and then we would see that. All right. Now, we just happen to put this up here because imagine this view we're looking in here. We can just fold it down and it can be there, it can be there. It's the same view. It doesn't matter where we put it. And we usually stick it just up out of the way so it's not overlapping the drawing. And that's what we're going to do. Now remember, if I look at my Lego guy this way, the height of anything hasn't changed. He's still the same Lego guy. So all the heights I can take off the elevation, or we would see him like this at this kind of a funky angle. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the line of intersection here, perpendicular to it, to see it as a true length. We'll pop the drawing up here out of the way, draw our first auxiliary here, taking all of our heights from the elevation. Then we're going to do a second auxiliary to look along it. We'll get to that when we get to it. So, step one, do the sliding set squares. There we go. And we'll just slide this guy up. Now this is a fairly big drawing, so I'm going to put it all the way up here, just above. There we are. So this x1, y1 is parallel to the line of intersection. Label that x1, y1 because that way you're kind of proving you know what you're doing. This is my x1, y1. Okay. So this is going to be tight enough to fit in the next one. We'll worry about that when we get to it. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to project each of these points. And we only have 6 points to project. And these are going to project perpendicular. Because remember, we are looking perpendicular to this line. Now this is going to be just a little bit awkward with our set squares. We might have to extend a few of them up. So what we'll do is we'll just have to slide this back this way. Okay, let's see if we can get that. Now I'm just going to do a quick check here. The highest point is B, which will be there. We'll still have that on the page. Good stuff. Now if we're having a bit of difficulty getting them lined up, we'll just do it with this one instead. Okay, so just see that is lining up nicely there, and this is going to allow me to bring a few points up, and once you get one, it's going to become a whole lot easier. So there's B. Let's see, we'll project up D as well, somewhere up along there, and the rest of them I'm going to have to move by, but I might actually just send some of these projections up because I can continue the lines in a second. Okay, now once I have those lines, it's actually not very hard to continue them. Up we go. And up we go. Now at this stage, I'm going to put a few of them in and I'll go back and get these guys over here. Now there's two ways to do this, okay? Normally, the way we would do it is with our compass. So we take our heights here, okay? So let's pick one of the ones that I have. There is D, okay? So D is going to be that high. The elevation, and we just make sure we're tracking the same line, and there's D there. Because remember, on little Lego man, if we're looking this way at him, the height of his hands hasn't changed, so if I'm projecting where his hand's going to be, it's still the same height it was in the elevation. So there we are. Now that's grand, and that works for most of the drawings you'll do. However, when you're given the spatial coordinates, there's a shortcut you can take because I know how high it is. So let's look at B. B is 90 high because these are the y coordinates along here. So I can just go measure directly. So it's really down to a little bit of personal preference, which one of these you prefer when you have an option like that. Just make sure we get that nice and tidy. Measure, of course. There we go. So there's B right at the top of my page. And you saw the way I did that quick little check, what's the biggest one going to be, just to see if my XY line needed to move down. If it has to overlap the drawing, it's not the end of the world, okay? You'll be on A2 paper in the exam, you'll have loads of space for it. So try your best in A3, but don't get too worried about it. Okay, there's B. So again, we'll just do, let's see what we have. We have A over here. A was 5, it's very low down. So we'll just definitely do that with the ruler because it's so annoying to do with the compass. Okay, label them. You don't want to make a little slip at this stage. E was 55. So there's E. And now we've got to go get these two. Now the nice thing is once you've got these lines drawn in, you can do parallels. And the parallels, you can get a much bigger sweep on them. There we go. So that's how I'm going to get those two there. Okay, I just want to see if that's fully visible on camera. Yeah. Great. Okay, now just for pure bit of variety, I'm going to use a compass for these two, just to remind you of that method if you prefer the compass method. So that's C, and C is this high. There we go. And my habit is just to label as I go, avoid silly mistakes. And F is this high here. Yeah, I just do a little tiny line as I draw it, just to make sure I know where the compass is actually contacting the page. Look at that, just on the page. Okay, so let's get ABC. Now, I'm drawing this slightly heavy. At the moment, because this is a construction, technically speaking, you'll do this as construction the whole way along. You don't really need to worry about the hidden lines for this step. Okay, you might see them, you might not, but it's not something we're going to get too bothered about. I know that D, E, F all connect. There we go. Now, in a lot of normal drawings, these guys will give you the line of intersection. Of course, I don't have that yet. I actually have to go and get these two points here. Okay, so I think we decided to call them, I don't know what we call them, but we'll call them X and Y, why not? X and Y, X and Y. So I do need to bring these two up because I'm going to need to look along this in order to see where to go next. So that's fine, we just 2 more points. We're on a bit of a roll at this stage. There we go. Now, that point X is on the edge BC, so it hasn't changed. So actually I can just say there's X there. And Y is going to be on the edge D to E. So I just project Y up. D to E, there it is there. And there's Y. I mean, you could go off and you could do your compass method if you liked, because we don't know the height of them. And you'll see it'll give you the same answer. So sometimes you might just see little shortcuts like that. You know, save things. It's exactly the kind of stuff we're using in intersection of solids where we know a point is on a particular edge. It's a loci thing. It's just one piece of information we know about it. So now I'm going to go and give that a nice blue colour. Feeling confident as I use my biro. Okay, so this is auxiliary 1. Okay, now auxiliary 2. Well, how do we do this one? We look along, okay? Along XY, along our line of intersection. Because if I look along this line, I see it as a point, and therefore I see my dihedral. So there we go, and this is going to fit nicely into our page, so we just project out here to look along it, which means, of course, x2, y2 is going to be perpendicular to that. So I'll just bring this up here. Okay, just make sure that's properly sitting on it. And there we go. And I think we'll fit this in just here. Okay, x2, y2. It's x2, y2 because it's an auxiliary of an auxiliary. All right, and again, what we've really done in our little dude's little Lego man, we've turned around this way. Now we're looking down like this. So it's like, imagine his arm was up here. Okay, we've looked at him straight on, and now we're going to raise it up and look down like this. Okay, and the things that haven't changed here are the distances between the two views. Now this is a little bit weird to visualize sometimes, but what we're going to do is we're going to start taking these distances here. Okay, now that's kind of awkward. If you wanted to actually, if you'd like to visualize it, I'm going to stand him on this XY line. That's like your X1, Y1. All right, so we're really taking the distances, okay, from the ground back to where this plan view is. Now, okay, where were we gone? Yes, that's going to be a nightmare because it's huge. It's going to go off my page. So we take a measuring line. So all we do, remember we set our XY line wherever it was. We can choose that. So we just pull this back. And usually, it's no harm to pull it back so one of the points, in this case D, is going to be the first point I meet, is on the ground. Okay, and I'll call that ML, my measuring line. It just means 1 point, there's one less bit of measurement you need to do. Okay, everything else is going to be from that. So I projected along XY. So XY, this is my distance here, we'll do it in red. That distance is what I'm going to copy over. Okay, let's see, our exposure is happy. Yep. There we go. So, look along this one, and that is both points X and Y, which is exactly what you expect, because the whole goal is to look along that line and see it as a point. Okay, so I need to bring the rest of them across. I actually only need 2 more from each side. So here we go. Again, we're just doing our parallels because we're looking in the same direction for them all. So let's go bring A and B and bring these two together. Now, in this one, it's no harm. I'm actually going to bring C as well. Okay, strictly speaking, 2 points is enough, but it's no harm to just double check and see how accurate everything is going. So let's see where we're going. There's A, and this is why you label them. Keep track of them. Yes, Aiden, I'm talking to you. Label your points. There's A. Now that thing won't work for any other year group, so it's just completely broken this drawing. C. There's C there. And even if I am using this with another year group, you're thinking, who the hell is Aiden? Aiden's a very good student who has a good idea to visualize these things and can get away with this a lot of the time, like many of the other people in our class. However, there's B. B, where's B going? B, there, he's really small, so I'm going to measure this later. However, at some point, you're going to run out of steam in terms of how much you can visualize. And just to be aware that you may not run out in a class situation. But once we bring in the extra pressure for an exam, it does get trickier. So there we go. So there's a slight little inaction. I'm actually going to double check C. C looks like it might have gone off a small bit for me. And if I was to guess how it gone off, this measuring line might be slightly off as well. Just double check that. Tiny bit higher. And see it better this way. And there's my line. It's a little bit like junior science. You can do a line of best fit. You can see we're very, very close. A might actually be a small bit off. Okay. And again, if I was to getting them heavily off, I would go back and I would check my measuring line and make sure that is properly parallel to my XY line. Okay, it is actually, that's where my error is. It's about 1 millimeter off on the measuring line. Okay, check it folks. So I did see the sun come in and out there. Okay, so this is, that's plane ABC. Okay, let's do the other one. DEF. And we'll line this guy up. And there's D there. And F is all the way back here. I might get my head in shot here as we reach it. There we go. And again, my little cross check as I'm looking at all of these is, do these all look parallel? If you had a little slip, you'll pick it up. Like you look how close those two are. They're pretty good. So, same thing. We're going to take them all from the measuring line. So we just sketch in that this was where that measurement came from. The one little red one. this guy here. It's that one. So the same again. There's E. E is this guy. There's F. F is here. Of course, X and Y is going to be one of the points on it. In our case, it's going to be Y, but we don't really care because they're all together. And I should see something else down here. What am I missing? D. Oh, D is, of course, on the line. And that's why that was an easy one, because we know straight away it's there. Line them all up. And yep, that's looking pretty good there. There we have it. Okay, we can see one was very slightly off. So that's our angle. Again, we want to have a little look at that and get our dihedral on it. I'm going to see an angle of, so remember I'm coming from 0, so I'm going to get bigger, 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 70 and a bit. Now see where the line crosses, and I'm getting 74 degrees there. Now you might find that these guys, you're plus or minus maybe 3 degrees, and I wouldn't be upset. 3 degrees is a bit out, but certainly 2 degrees, no big deal. Okay, so we should be somewhere in that space of the 70s for this dihedral angle. All right, take the time. It's worth getting really comfortable on this one. This will utterly come up in your exam somewhere along the line. So it's one we need to know.